It's amazing. Success is a journey. It's never a destination.
In a world where faith is often tested, one man has relentlessly paved the way, setting an example of unwavering hope, love, and spiritual growth. Join us on an extraordinary journey as we explore the inspiring life and ministry of Pastor Gbenga Ojo, a true pacesetter who began his remarkable journey on the streets of Alapere, a suburb of Lagos State in Nigeria. The story of Pastor Gbenga Ojo began on the 12th of September 1973, when he was born to Pastor Emmanuel Adedayo Ojo and Mrs. Adunola Ajibola Ojo at the General Hospital in Lagos. Let's hear from his parents how that was.
We're not dead. We don't know the sex that we are going to have, but I pray that God should give me a wonderful child, and I'm happy when I have him. Be my first son.
It was a joy having a boy, because the first child also was a girl. So having a boy was, the African mentality of having a boy as one of your children. So I think that's why we call him Gbenga. We were happy at the gift of God.
He is the first son and second child in a family of 6 children, equally split between 3 girls and 3 boys. His siblings are Lola, Olanrewaju, Dayo, Adunola, and Ebunolua.
Hi, my name is Lola Oyedeji Olaniyo. I'm Pastor Gbenga Ojo's senior sister. I'm the first of 6 siblings. As a baby, I learned I was a very crying baby. I guess my parents will talk more about that.
When he was born, I was in share, and because of the crying all night, each time I went to office, I was a programmer in share, I would lock up myself in the toilet for about 20 minutes to sleep, because we were not sleeping all night. Is to show that and you cannot be sleeping on duty. But that crying aspect of it is authenticated.
One thing that they have consistently said is just that Pastor G was a crying baby. Yeah, and that he cried a lot. And I think my grandma was around from my maternal side to take care of him, and she never complained about him. So Pastor J and my maternal grandmother had a special bond, because I think for her it was like, you don't complain about a baby, that cries.
I remember that my mother would put him at his back. My mother will kneel down and he will be crying and crying throughout the time. Very, very to our grandma.
To her grandma, because that one would always put him at the back just to pacify him, to lure him to sleep, to be quiet.
I remember every time we joke, and as subsequent children were born and grandchildren came, Pastor G's cry was always a reference. And by the time I was having my own kids, if you say somebody is crying, or by the time Pastor G was having his own children, it's always like Pastor G's baby experience was the reference when he came to crying, which was good, because maybe he cried so much as a baby that by the time he became a man, he was a solid man.
He was a well-behaved child who did not give troubles to his parents growing up.
The first day in school, in the nursery school that he attended, he was very anxious to go to school the first day because the sister was there. And now he came back, then the following day, go to school. Said no, he was not going to school. I said, I paid school fees, so you will go. You must go. And it was a struggle to get him back. because I think he lost staying back at home. Although he was first excited to go to school, right from the gate, from the entrance of the house. Huh?
Okay. Crying, open the door.
He'll be crying to say that the door should be open. I mean, it was an exciting moment.
So something about our upbringing, our parents in general were not extroverted people. So they were not all over the place. They were rather conservative, even when they were not Christians. So for Pastor G, yeah, he was a calm, quiet child, really.
As a child, I think he didn't give us any problem.
My name is Gbenga Ojo. I'm the guy that that got donated after Pastor G by the Almighty. So that's me. I'm the one after him. Yeah. One thing while he was growing up that I remember is when Pastor G is upset, he speaks in impeccable English. If you want to hear Pastor G speak English like Queen's English, it's only when he's angry. When he will give you big vocabulary at that point in time. From beginning to the end, no punctuation, everything is perfect. And then I used to laugh. I said,
my name is Gbenga Ojo. I am the number 4th in the line of siblings of Pastor Gbenga Ojo. He's my elder brother. Pastor Gbenga has been a quiet person. My childhood with him, quiet. He wasn't really too mischievous of a person, but he was really that fun, quiet person that you would want to be with.
As a child, I mean, we didn't have any problem with him in terms of character. Academics, no problem like that.
In primary school, she always come first or second or third.
He was very good.
Very brilliant.
Then Pastor G used to be a good barber with comb and blade, and he used to cut different hairstyles for me.
As we grew older, we used to do fun things like practice Michael Jackson songs and then go and present it to my parents. Myself, Pastor G, and I think 2 of my siblings at that time. So we would practice Billie Jean and all that, and then go and dance and have a special presentation to our parents. So that was really nice memories.
As I'm saying this, Pastor G is going to laugh, so I'll start. So let's first start with Pastor G, the musician.
So when we moved down to Alapere, and we had, Mom had one of the flats that was empty, and it had drums. We would pack all the metal paints, empty metal paints, and we wanted to form the reggae songs, and we were singing all the yaba yaba yoba 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 yaba.
And he dragged me into his musical band. Our first hit that never went viral was because someone dissed Pastor G. So he started a song. I still remember the lyrics of the song right now. So our drum set was this paints, this Dulux paints and sticks. We set them up in an empty apartment in our new house then.
I remember the time she was keeping a dog. When she was keeping a dog, when the dog was sick, everybody in the house, no food in that house that day. He would be crying about the dog, carry the dog. When the dog died, It's another thing in that
Everybody
school.
was in a
Everybody
money
was
mode
not.
because
That's why we say we are not keeping a dog in the family for sometimes because of him. Anything that she loved, she did the best, including animal.
Pastor G now left music and said he wants to recruit me into the military. So we started Young Army Boys Club. Pastor G, look at what Pastor G did though. Pastor G was the only general. Between general, he made me lieutenant. He now drafted our little cousin. That was the only private. So if anything happens, Pastor G say, Lieutenant, I say, yes, sir. Say, go and get me cookies, go and get me this. Me I'll tell Corporal Shegun Adesoya, Shege, the general needs something, you will get it. If you don't do it, Pastor G say, Lieutenant, I say, yes, sir. Say, punish the corporal. Next thing corporal said is resigning, that is not joining Young Army's work club. Pastor G came to meet. I said, Jack, I promote for 4 years sergeants. So promoted corporal from corporal to sergeant. Pastor G know me. Pastor G know me.
My name is Abdullah Oniko. I am aka Ward, according to Pastor G. That's his nickname for me. Initially was Casco, but let's stick with Ward. I am his immediate junior sister. I am number 5 out of 6. There are two boys in between us, but I still claim the title immediate junior sister. Him and Papa, they will take my mom's lace. You know the stone in those old lace? They will, you know the key holder, They will put the glue and stone on the key holder. And that's how they will be getting those girls.
The girl's party was the girl that we went to look for that Pastor G composed song. Because the girl said no. So me, I supported the song. And I went to sing it for that girl in summer school. The girl's name is Lola. I can't forget her. Light girl. I sang it for her. It was Pastor G that composed it too. And I just sang the song. Because the girl said no. But like I said, she was like complexion. Me, I didn't know Pastor G already like complexion girl. But because he was the leader, me, I was lieutenant. I know that if I do obey instruction, when I get back to base, they will punish me. So I just obeyed.
Pastor G was the justice maker. He made sure to fight your battle. So he would fight his own, but he would also fight yours as well. And if I needed someone to plead my case or fight for me, I knew who to go to. That was Pastor G.
He's still slim now, but that slender looking Pastor Gbenga could play football. Yeah, he could play football. My mom was the first person that taught him how to drive. And, like I said, he was quiet, but we were also mischievous. And one of those mischievous days was when we had to, put a bet on who can move the car and inside the small compound. And when you have to move the car, you have to mark it with the chalk just to be sure that when you return the car forward, back, it must be the exact point that, it was one wonderful challenge that we had.
So, yeah, they did rock Alapere too.
Honestly, Pastor was just sweet. He was just sweet. He was involved. His childhood was also fun. With that.
He later went to primary school in Lagos and then attended Federal Government College Ido-Ani for his secondary school education.
When I was growing up, he was really way ahead of me, right? So at this point, I know him going to Ido-Ani, and I knew he rocked Ido-Ani with his immediate brother, my other brother, Papa.
I got admission into Command, I got admission into Air Force, and I got admission into Idoani. But I chose Idoani because Gbenga was there. So FGC Idoani was a boarding school in Southwest. So of course I got to Idoani. It showed me around. I'll tell you the truth today. I was spoiled. So I got to Idoani. I was lazy. I didn't know how to wash clothes. I didn't know how to do a lot. I know how to go to the stream to fetch water. So Gbenga would fetch water for himself and get water for me. He would wash my clothes or help me to wash my clothes. If my clothes are dirty, I'll run to Gbenga's room, collect his clothes that is neat, that he has ironed. He'll give it to me and I'll wear it to school. I love eating junk. So my own Nido and Milo will finish. Gbenga will give me his cabin biscuits. And everybody knew that Abro Gbenga, that's Gbenga Ojo's brother, you know.
Life in FGC Idoani had its own challenges, including issues with seniors and serious health challenges.
But this is where part of his leadership qualities started showing. Pastor G's wife, Sister Tia, always asks me that, why do I respect Gbenga so much? Like, and even my wife has often asked me that, why is it that, like, despite the age difference doesn't look much, but I kind of hold him in high esteem. And I'm going to tell you the truth today. So Pastor G was what you call Form 3. I was in Form 1. And he was a bit skinny. And there was a senior in Form 5. I remember clearly, Hayode or something. And he kind of was bullying me. And he, you know, then they call it, there's this terminology we use in boarding school, that you drop your milk and Milo and everything for seniors and everything. So the guy came into the locker room and said, maybe I was supposed to donate or something. So Pastor G said, I'm sorry, that's his milk, he can't donate anything. And the guy said, are you crazy? This he said, I'm not crazy. And he stood in between me and the guy. And the guy was about to hit me, and Pastor G took that beating. And I'm telling you, he took this beating, he was crying, but he kept taking the beating, and he refused a single hand to reach me. Now, that was a turning point in my life. I mean, that was in 1985. I mean, I was just fresh. I was coming to boarding house, you know. And he took this beating, and I cried, and since that day, I realized that, listen, this guy is not just my senior brother, he's like my leader.
I can remember one day he came home and I didn't even recognize him. He was so sick. I think it was a miracle he got home, because they had to rush him straight to the hospital to get his appendicitis removed. He was almost ruptured.
Yeah, you know, we never knew what it was, but, you know, God will always preserve his own people.
I remember that appendix one. It was really like, are you faking it? Eventually, he had the appendix operation.
Remember, we have to rush him to
Straight from
the school to the hospital. Yeah. He has to go through an operation that they said the operation will take just 30 minutes and the operation will take 2 hours, 3 hours. And thank God the way that God saved his life.
casting our minds back now, all we can say is it is God's doing that we took that step immediately, not wasting time in taking him to hospital.
And eventually, we jacked all of them back to Lagos. We have had enough. We had had enough of it. Our mom and dad had to say, no, I think it's enough. You guys can no more do that again. We are tired of it.
I remember something when he was in Udua in secondary school.
Okay.
You never complain about it. Very honest. Even when we want to transfer them from Idoani back to Lagos, the principal said no. You can't transfer them. One, very brilliant. Second, very honest. Very honest.
And that's how he moved from being border to come down to Lagos, where he finished from Air Force Secondary School.
He was in the Air Force Secondary School for the last 2 years.
It was in Air Force Secondary School, amidst strict academic curriculum and training, young Gbenga gave his life to Christ and later received baptism in the Holy Ghost under a mango tree.
Pastor met God early. Right from secondary school. So his passion for God started, I think was more from secondary school. He wasn't one person that you would say that in his childhood, early childhood, you saw him drinking, smoking. No, he wasn't.
When he became born again, I think I remember the version of his being born again, because it was a huge influence on my own Christian journey. Loving Jesus was more important than anything else.
Gbenga Ojo had shown a love for engineering from a young age.
Mommy will confirm this. Each time we were driving along the Ikorodu road, and he saw caterpillar. This earth-moving machineries. He would always say, I want to buy a caterpillar. I want to buy a caterpillar. It was not buying a car, but buying caterpillar. So you wonder, why is this child interested in caterpillar?
I know that anytime she says, I want to buy caterpillar. I want caterpillar. I want to buy caterpillar. You're not talking about guys caterpillar.
Pastor Gbenga's quest for knowledge and a deeper connection with his faith led him to pursue higher education at the prestigious Federal University of Technology, Akure.
When the JAMB result came out, BSc in Mineral Technology or something, and FUTA offered that. Of course, my very good friend and coursemate, reading mate in the university, Professor Kolawole, was the VC of FUTA. So it wasn't, and I was in JAM. It wasn't difficult for me to say, let's go to FUTA and see Kolawole, and we got there,
and she performed very well.
He performed well, so the man said, well, whichever course a child does is the choice. So his performance fitted into the cut-off mark in FUTA, and of course, the very fact that I had a friend who was a VC then, facilitated his going to FUTA.
His time at FUTA is instrumental in shaping his path of spiritual leadership.
When he was in FUTA, and those were when there were those tapes, and you would have, when you finish listening back and forth, you have to roll it, right? Yeah, you go So I would take his tapes and just listen. And I got introduced to, George Adegboye. I got introduced to the Jerry Savelle. And so when I went to Unilorin, I really wanted to, if not anything, just attend a Rema church so I can be like, I went to George Adegboye, right?
FUTA provided Pastor Gbenga an environment to further deepen his faith and cultivate a profound sense of purpose. It was during these years that he became increasingly aware of his divine calling, preparing him for the impactful ministry that lay ahead. So much so, even his haircut had a unique name, Go Ye.
That is hairstyle. Go Ye.
Go Ye.
Mommy used to call it Go Ye into the world. That's the name of his hairstyle, the punk.
Pastor's haircut was called Go Ye. We all remember that Goye Airport.
His decision to study metallurgy and materials engineering might not have made sense at the time, but it has proven to be pivotal in his success story years down the line. As a student at FUTA, Pastor G, as he is popularly called, was already sure of the call of God in his life. As a result, he started a fellowship on campus where he taught about faith, purpose, and loving God. Then came the time when he decided to leave the family church, Deeper Life Bible Church.
Our parents were the ones that moved from Methodist church actually to Deeper Life. So that was our parents leading the way.
So you can see that Deeper Life also played a big role in his conservative lifestyle.
As far as I understand it, Sister Ola was the first one that left Deeper Life and not Pastor G. To get the gist behind that, Sister Ola is your person.
When I went to the university in Southwest Nigeria, University of Ibadan, which is where my father also went to. When I went to university, my first step out from Deeper Life was that I was going to the Student Union Fellowship. By the time he started venturing outside of Deeper Life,
at the point I knew that overshadowed into his connection when he came in contact with people like books of people like Bishop Oyedepo. The Rema Church was also a very good influence into his life.
I think there was the initial resistance from my parents.
After my sister was I don't want to use the word because Christian was not a rebel, but he was a rebel leader that broke the freedom of the church he wanted to attend.
Transition, Deeper Life. Deeper Life, brother. Rebel. He said he's not going to Deeper Life. Everybody thought it was a joke. He said he's not going. And he gave his reasons. But one thing about him is when he's convinced about anything and he has a strong scriptural backing and is convinced about it, he'll stick to it. Even if you don't agree with him, he'll stick to it. And he felt what he said eventually happened because he felt some of the doctrines then were human doctrines and they were not scriptural.
And I think my parents eventually just put things in perspective and just even if they couldn't 100% be supportive, they didn't block it. Yeah, I think that's the word. They didn't block it.
I'm a liberal man. As long as we're in Christ, my philosophy is once you are in Christ, denomination is just a human boundary. There's a universal church. So we saw what he was doing in FUTA and under the ministry was operating. We've never raised any eyebrow as to whether you are Deeper Life or not, as long as you are preaching holiness and you are living it out.
He was convinced of leaving secular formal education as we know it in pursuit of the call of God on his life. And it would take strong interventions from his father to wait and complete his bachelor's degree before setting out into ministry.
He was a pastor in FUTA, and he had all these people surrounding. Pastor is always highly esteemed. And today, when we are going to Ilorin tomorrow to Ife, I said, look, you are first and foremost a student before you are a pastor. So my own understanding is that finish your program, come out well, and then thereafter you can now go and be a pastor. But for this period of time, I will want you to first of all face your studies. above any other thing. I think I remember that vividly because it was being carried away with all this euphoria of being a pastor. I remember I cautioned him to say, look, finish your program, come out well, and then you can then become whatever you want to become.
Such was and still is the strong conviction of his call. In the 1990s, there was a lot of instability in the Nigerian university system due to strikes by the lecturers. Undergraduate students were sent home for several months on end. Pastor Gbenga felt the need to provide a fellowship for youth to attend during this period.
My name is Pacesetter Ojo. I'm Pastor Gbenga Ojo's wife, popularly known as Pastor G. We were all in universities and polytechnics at that time. We were having ASU strikes, and sometimes we would be home 6 months and 8 months. So that gave time to organize something like this.
When Jekstoban Secondary School started, and they were having the youth, normal fellowship for students. I remember Pastor G was so passionate about the fellowship of the students, and believe me, he would go all the way out to rent the speakers. He would go all the way out to make sure that the student fellowship was just, these were kids, and his passion for their life was phenomenal. That was like what the students were doing every Friday or so. Even the ones that were very naughty, but when it got to that fellowship period, they were very spiritual. Many years after, a lot of them still refer to those experiences in their growth.
My name is Amaka George Shubo. I am an entrepreneur in the healthcare industry. I am an alumni of Jekstoban Secondary School. Jekstoban, Jesus Christ, our banner. Getting into Jekstoban was very instrumental to my Christian life, because when we got in, it was obviously a Christian school, not just in words, but in nature. And so Uncle Gbenga then he wasn't a member of the teaching group or anything. And so in my small frame, Uncle Gbenga first and foremost looked like a very tall giant. You know how tall Uncle Gbenga is. He was calm. He's a good listener. He is a patient man. Even as young as I was, that was very evident. And he was just someone that we looked up to. A lot of us in my set and the set before looked up to him a lot for guidance. He just was always available. He was there to cheer you on. He was there to encourage you. He was there to, give you the thumbs up and everything. And so we a lot of us, were there to him. He started a fellowship in school, or the fellowship was in existence, but he just came and I think he actually did start a fellowship, and we used to have it in the den canteen, and we would all troop out there, and we saw God move in very raw, tangible form. The sick got healed. I have a friend who was dealing with sickle cell anemia, and he prayed for her, and she got well. When I say well, I mean from that moment on, she used to be really ill, like literally every week she had to be out of school and all that. But after that period, up until now, I'm still very much in touch with her now, and she is so strong. She's doing great. She got her healing from that. For me as an individual, it was a life transforming moment, because it was then I caught on the fire and I got more intimate with the Holy Spirit. I began to live out the principles of Christianity. And those principles were evident in even my prayer life. And I was very, very specific about my goals. And I did pray. I remember very well, even up until now, my mom says it that, a lot of the things I got were on my knees. Like, I prayed them through. And that was because of the encouragement we got from Uncle Gbenga. It was very instrumental to my faith. Like, gosh, I prayed and God did this. Like, he really did it. Like, I came out in flying colors. And, I remember sharing with Uncle Gbenga, and he was not just proud of the result, but he was also proud of the progress I had made as a Christian. And of course, those values held me on through my post-secondary education up until now. Those values I still hold fast. And so literally you can see how the seed that one man sowed, keeps, literally the gift he gave, is still giving, and I know for sure, off my head, I can count a couple of other people who are still on fire for Jesus because of the benefit they got from that particular fellowship.
That was like what the students were doing I think it was every Friday or so. But that triggered into the Alapere for Christ program.
All of these culminated in Alapere Youth for Christ, a movement of like-minded young men and women who set out to evangelize the young people of Alapere and win their souls for Christ during the holidays and long sessions of university closure.
Alapere Christian Youth, I think it came out of, we are Christians and we are young people. We can't just sit at home this 8 months, 6 months without doing anything for Christ. This area called Alapere, we could come together and take advantage of the time we have on our hands and reach out to other youth. I think that's why they call it Alapere Christian Youth. So the purpose was to reach other youth, win souls to Christ, so that during the holiday you don't find those who are already believers going astray from the faith. I think they also believe, let's come together and strengthen one another, but basically youth, not everybody.
There was this strong way for zeal for evangelism in Alapere for youth. I mean, he and others started that, and they were all over the place evangelizing and holding crusades.
He was the founder, pioneer of Alapere Christian Youth Crusade, and there was this empty plot on our street where we would hold the crusade.
I think most of the people I saw in the group were from homes or parents, children of parents that attend Deeper Life Bible Church. And these young people are saying there is more to this strict rules that has been given. We can be young, we can be vibrant and yet righteous, and be openly righteous. So I think that's also one of the things they wanted to incorporate into the movement. So Alapere was being, impacted by Alapere Christian Youth, if I may call it movement, because it was an interdenominational movement.
So I know of myself, I know of Pastor Nifalia, I know a whole lot of people, Tunde Shebanjo and quite a lot of people that it was just a fire, a young man full of energy for God. That Alapere guys was something that has gone far. And I know I'm not only speaking, you're fortunate to know me today. I know there are a lot of people out there. Maybe the time and distance are not able to put together, but it is an amazing movement. It was an amazing movement.
I think one unique thing about him with our last born was that when our last born, Ebony, was growing up, Pastor G would, because of the age difference, Pastor G was always dropping her in school, and dropping her wasn't driving. It was through the bus or walk down And I think for some time in the school, people presumed that our last born was actually, that Pastor G was actually the father.
My name is Ebonyua Adenichi, and I'm the youngest sister of Pastor G. Weirdly, when I was younger, most people used to think it was my father because of the age gap and the fact that I look so much like him. So to be honest, my memory of it is very faint because of course I was very little. But I remember the memories I have, of him coming to pick me up from school, that I remember, and of us going to church. So we used to go to our family church and he would put me on his shoulder, and it's weird because I remember the streets we were passing, and I don't know if there was a riot or something, but he just kept me on his shoulder and he was running, so those are memories I remember. So he used to organize church programs, in like youth programs. I think they called it youth programs that time. I just used to be, the only reason I used to be excited was I know they used to serve one sandwich in that place. So anytime he's having that program, I'm always happy, like, thank God, me, I'll eat sandwich. I didn't understand what he was doing, but I just knew that he used to organize programs and they would pray, and me, I'll follow them and eat sandwich, So yeah, those were very fun memories for me.
This was an impactful period, with massive testimonies coming out from these evangelistic outreaches. Immediately after graduation, Pastor G submitted to the ministry of Reverend Femi, where he began to serve as a minister. He was ready to ignore the mandatory paramilitary training for Nigerian graduates, National Youth Service Corps, in favor of commencing tutelage at the Rema Bible Training Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
After finishing, he was not even going to serve, he was going to go into ministry, he was to go to Formative theological something in America, and we paid for all that.
He wanted to meet Kenneth Higgins. I think he wanted to ask questions, and he dreamt of Higgins laying hands on him. And I think in his mind, that would have catapulted him into ministry.
He wanted to, I think I remember I wanted to go to the US, but that didn't happen.
He was refused a visa, I think, and that was why he didn't go for straight from college to without even serving. It was after that he now had to go. I think he waited a year before he went for his service because he was bent on going straight to the Formative Theological Institute in America.
God had other plans for his life, as plans for the USA eventually gave way to God's choice of South Africa. Before relocation, though, the story of a certain beautiful lady has to be told.
I don't even remember Pastor G with anybody, to be honest. Remember I said he was very reserved, and all he used to do there was pray and take me to school and pray. So there was one of Pastor G's friends. It's weird I don't remember his name now. I think I don't remember his name now. It was I think Pastor T.I.'s cousin, and they used to stay down our street, and we used to go there.
I liked that T.I. before Gbenga met. That story is deep because me, in my own innocence, I used to go to Sister T.I.'s house then. She was with she used to come around to see her cousin Biodun. Biodun is a mutual friend of Pastor Gbenga and myself, but he's closer to Pastor Gbenga. Now I would go there. I know Sister T.I. I didn't realize that each time Gbenga comes there, I didn't quickly wake up. In fact, I know that period I was spiritually dark, so I couldn't even sense anything.
To talk about that, it's still very vivid in my mind. I was not expecting that. We've not actually been friends for so long. So I had a knock on the door, and it happened to him because I've known him now from Alapere Christian Youth. We've done the crusade. The crusade has been over. Other things have happened, but that particular day I was not expecting anybody. I was not expecting. So I had a knock on the door. I was living with my cousins there, the same street as he lived there. So I had a knock, opened the door. I didn't want to open the door that day. I wanted to pretend there was nobody at home, but I got up, opened the door. It happened to be him. So I was expecting him to leave a message for his friend, and I thought otherwise that would be too not inviting. It won't be proper for you to stand by the door and just ask, okay, your friend is not at home. Can you leave a message? It doesn't seem proper, even though I didn't want him to come in there. So I still offered, you can come in, please. He came in, then I noticed he had somebody with him, a person I've never met before, but later I got to know who that individual was.
Oh, my name is Remy Adetumbi. The pastor at the Faith Land Ministries here in Canada, and also the president of the Faith Life Club in Nigeria as well. And Pastor Gbenga Ojo is my mentor, though he is my cousin. He just told me that, because he calls me Bishop, he was like, Bishop, I want you to follow me somewhere, let's go somewhere, and I was like, okay, yes, Pastor G, and then I followed him. And when we got there, we got to the house, and I looked up, and it was a lady, a sister we were asking for, being Pastor G's protege, so we're all very spiritual people, so I didn't expect he would be taking me to a sister's house. So and then when we're climbing the stairs, I was like, Pastor G, the sister's house, he was like, yeah, Bishop, I just want to have this discussion and everything. So when we go to the sitting room, because he didn't tell me he was going to deliver some manifesto agenda there anyway, so I just followed in peace. So, but I think between the staircase and when we got up, I had an idea from something he said. I don't remember precisely. So when we got to the sitting room, we greeted her.
So they sat down, we talked about some other things. I offered, I think water or drink and all that. I was expecting him to get up, like, this is taking too long, let me go, I would come back another time. But he wasn't getting up, and I'm like, I need to do other things, and it won't be polite to just leave him in the sitting room and go about my business. So I was forced to sit and carry on with the conversation. I don't remember what we spoke about anymore.
30 minutes gone, 45 minutes, I think it was going 1 hour plus.
Then he whispered something to his cousin.
And I was asked to go to the balcony to sit. And then they closed the door of the balcony. And then I knew that, I know what is happening here today.
And the cousin went to the balcony and he continued the conversation. And Pastor has a way of, when he wants to talk, he has a way of tuning to that serious mood. Then he will ask you some questions, you will hear the voice, the atmosphere changed, not the I'm waiting for your cousin atmosphere anymore. It's like something different is about to be, to come out to be asked. So I was waiting for whatever it could be. We're having this conversation. I could hear his cousin praying in tongues. The cousin is Bishop. I'm sure you've spoken with him, Remy.
I had to start praying in the spirit, like, no, we are not going back defeated. No. I just started praying in the spirit. So I don't remember precisely how long that lasted after, maybe close to 2 hours or less.
And there, he asked me about marriage. And then he said, he now proposed. I was not expecting it. I was shocked. And I couldn't give him answer right there. Because in my mind, not because he was a bad person, I was not expecting it. We have not been that close a friend at the time. And also, I was too scared of making marital mistake. So I wanted to be sure before I give an answer. So I rounded up that conversation with, give me time, let me be sure for myself, then I will come back. So that was how we rounded up. Thank God for the church I also went to that time. We've been taught about these things. And I was deliberate and serious about it, that if I have to make a choice, I need to know I'm making the right decision. And the only way I could know I'm making the right decision is I know I have heard from God. At that time, I haven't heard anything. So I wasn't going to pretend. I wasn't going to say, okay, yes, then I can reverse it later. I think that would be too childish and that would look somehow to me. So I thought it's better to make it like, I would give you an answer later. So we parted on that note. I think one thing I liked right from the beginning about him, he went about God things like determined, committed, and he was not going to take no for an answer. He wanted it to succeed. I mean, the crusade itself. He put so much effort into arranging, making sure things are actually done properly. And I think that was one of those things that stood out for me.
Yeah, so I was just happy that my brother has a babe. She was light-skinned. Okay, let's do this.
So when they were cutting, the rule of thumb is you have to come home on time, because that rule of thumb was, I think, 9:30 or 10, and they would, that old one of you escort me back, you escort me, and Dayo, please stay at the gate. I have to stay awake, and when they knock, you have to go to the gate and open the door for you to come.
And I shouldn't that it's like coming to our place. I feel like, I think that time there was nothing like dating. So maybe when you see someone you want to marry, you say this is the will of God. I don't know. It feels like that's what it was then.
Pastor Tia worked with Mr. Biggs.
She will come with supreme ice cream for me, and she'll come with Mr. Biggs meat pie for me. So I just love that, because I was getting ice cream and meat pie. So what's there not to love?
May food not allow you forget some things. Sister Tia was a super, always super.
Until last minute, some opportunities came up and he needed to choose whether, I think, UK, US or South Africa. And he said he prayed about it because he knew I wasn't in for either of those three. Not UK, not US, not South Africa, not for me. So he went ahead. Later he said he has chosen, he's going to South Africa, which I was not so happy about, but I had to tag along.
After some prep, Pastor Joe that, they are getting married. And I think they went to do their court wedding. I think that was before Pastor G was going to travel to South Africa, if I remember correctly.
When Pastor was about to travel out of the country, he has proposed maybe a year, 2 years prior to that, and because he was going out of the country, out of Nigeria rather, he went to Mozambique first with a family friend, and I think he went to UK as well, to US and to Mozambique. And now the idea was for him to now make a choice. But before leaving, we were married before he left. His wanting to travel, I think his visa came out. And the duration that we had to make plans, we had to rush and get married. From my parents' side, my mom was worried. When they travel, they will just leave their wives and girlfriend behind. I don't want that story that you'll be waiting 10 years and they'll be talking about visa and all that. I said, Mommy, please, I don't think we should do that. From his party, he was thinking the same way, that if we get married and whichever country he's going to, it will be easier for him to bring me, to that country. So we didn't have these big weddings and all that. that, we actually went to registry. I think we went to registry at Ikeja. And that was how we got married. Even sometimes my family were asking, is it proper marriage? And all that. Yes, we got married properly. We signed the marriage certificate. And I remember the lady that conducted it actually said, the certificate is for you, madam, not for him. I still remember that statement. She said it's for you. So we got married 31st, 2000. Yeah, when he traveled out. So that was the circumstances under which we got married.
Pastor Gbenga had known all along that God would have him start a church. Hence, the birth of the Pacesetters Church, formerly Dominion Family Church, did not come as a surprise to his wife.
Oh yeah, they start up the church. Okay. Right from Nigeria, he's always talked about ministry. So there was nothing in my mind or question in my mind as to, are we going to start the church? It was just a matter of when are we starting. But when I joined him here, one of the things we thought we should do is, one, we are not going to sit at home until when we be able to start a church. We were attending a church called His People in Rosebank. We attended that. We thought we should be under a coverage, we should be listening to God's word, there shouldn't be a gap. So we went to church, but along the way, we still have the mind of starting ministry, and at the right time, we will start. So we started a fellowship. We started a Bible study / fellowship, and other people from other denominations that were our friends joined, and we studied Bible together. Later, we structured it from Bible study structure to a proper service fellowship, and then to a service. So starting church, it wasn't a matter of are we going to start? It was a matter of when are we starting.
The church started from a very humble beginning.
We started in our room. He shared the vision, and I think he told us which day we kicked off service. Yeah. So when we started, we were less than 10. So gradually, things started taking shape. Yeah, at the beginning, it was a bit hard. Maybe not a bit, a lot of hard. I remember Pastor would go and hire a speaker then. We didn't have any equipment, not even microphone. We will hire one speaker. Pastor will go up Brankfontein to where FMB is. There is a guy there that was doing DJ / whatever in music. He will hire a speaker, and Pastor will carry the speaker on his head with all his jacket and anointed man of God in Brankfontein, and he will walk to church for us to use the speaker. After service, he takes it back to that man, and we make payment there. Then I will be we open the church, I will clean up, so I will the cleaning lady, I will be the usher by the door, I usher people in. Then when it's time to start service, I became the praise and worship leader. Don't ask me the quality then. We clapped our hands and we danced and all that. We've had series of keyboardists, those that would disappoint. I think we had one or two that came in drunk on Sunday morning. Those that would, you don't see them until you call them, and they will tell you that I was waiting for you to call me. So we've had those series of those moments, that stage.
Oh, my name is Obed Mabuza. I'm an instrumentalist at church. Yeah, obviously, I remember there was one guy who referred me to him. So they needed a keyboard player at church. So they exchanged numbers, and then he called me, and then we had to meet somewhere in Braamfontein. And then when we meet there, and then I was standing at the church door, so I was waiting for him. So when he came, he was looking a little bit casual. So I expected maybe something someone bigger, but trust me, he was looking very casual. And then when I get there, and then he ushered me to the auditorium. That was the first time I went there. And then when we got there, it was few chairs. So I was a little bit wondering that, okay, it's a church, but then he started introducing himself, telling me that he's got a vision and he wants to make the church and to make it bigger. He wants to take the church to greater heights. Trust me, when you are the first person to meet such an environment, it was very, very much small, and when he shared the vision, it could took someone who's very much spiritually sound to really believe that, because it didn't look like anything for what it is now.
By that time, Pastor was working on campus at Vit University then, if I remember, at the International Student Office. He was doing his master's there. And as he met other students, he would invite them to church. So we keep having, and then we used to have a lot of engineers in church, male engineer. He was a tutor at one point. He will meet with individual students, he will invite them. So we started having, one or two people joining us.
My name is Mtolisi Brandon Shoma. I normally prefer using both names. If you can pronounce Mtolisi, you can go ahead, or you can use Brandon. So about the Pacesetters Church, when I joined the Pacesetters Church, it was Dominion Family Church. I actually started coming to church when I think I was doing my third year. That should have been 2005 or so. But as you know, with other young students, I'll come in and bank a few Sundays when I need a testimony and come back. And guess what? Pastor G as we call him back then, now most of you know him as Pastor Gbenga Ojo. He will always preach that word, and that word will always be delivered with simplicity. And yet it was guiding us from an early age. So I've been at the Pacesetters Church from 2005, 2006, and till today I've been there. That makes it about 15 years or so. But I'm not able to work out the maths now, but I can tell you it's been that long I've been there, from being a student, changing phases in life, getting married, and now a father, and we know sooner or later being a grandfather, and still being part of the Pacesetters Church. So Pastor Gbenga Ojo has been with us in this journey, been with me in this journey for all these years.
So my name is David Kode. I am a minister in the Pacesetters Church. I've been a member of the church for many years. Pastor has been my pastor since I moved to South Africa. So I met Pastor at a very interesting period in my life. I was quite young then, a student, and I was desperately looking for a church. And I attended a service then in Brantford 10. And the first thing that I noticed about Pastor is his love for the Word of God. So I was sitting in the pew and then listened to him teach. His courage, his expressions, basically told me this is the pastor I've been looking for. I think his love for the Word of God is contagious, from how he preaches and teaches, and then even outside of a formal sermon, the conversations that I had with him at the time, just demonstrated to me that this is a man of God who loves God. And like I always say, what draws me to him is his love for God and the things of God.
The Pacesetters Church swiftly evolved into a hub for spiritual growth, social outreach, and community development. Supported by his loving family, including his wife, Pastor Titi, and their children, Femi and Fini, and the dedicated congregation, Pastor Gbenga continued to make an indelible mark on the lives of those they touched. As a marketplace minister, Pastor G is also an excellent professional who is a business executive and mining engineer.
Central Line, I'm retired. Gbenga and I were colleagues together at Deloitte, where I led the energy and resources industry, and he was in our mining technical advisory team. And I worked together with him in Johannesburg and in Nigeria. There were a couple of projects. I guess they spanned over a period of a couple of years. One project where we specifically worked together, which is where we were trying to do some work with the Nigerian Ministry of Mines, or Ministry of Solid Minerals, they called them in those days. And Gbenga and I worked together on that. I enjoyed working with him. You know, I mean, he was always enthusiastic. He was interested in the work. I think he was committed to what we were trying to do. I think he's good at what he does. I mean, he understands his subject matter. He was part of the process with the ministry to help them develop the kind of the roadmap, the mining roadmap for Nigeria. And then he helped us in many conversations with the minister himself, trying to progress the engagement. So I remember I enjoyed working with him. It was a lot of fun.
My name is Munya, as I said, Munya Chiresa. I met Mr. Gbenga in 2008, and I worked with him up until the time that I left South Africa in 2016. The first impression that got to me was that, he was sort of the quiet type, right? And that impression has never changed. So in my 8 years of working with him, and then after that, I still kept in touch with him, that's sort of the impression. But being quiet is not quiet enough, right, to describe, a person like Mr. Gbenga. He's the quiet type. He's the type that he has got morals, integrity, and a set of ideals that he tries to stick to. And I would say that during the course of me working with him, and even after I left South Africa, that never changed. He has always been a person who has got morals, ideals, a code of I would say living. Like he tries to stick by a code, in his life, and all of those things have always been the same. I've never used that term, so let me say there are people that are called Bible thumpers. People that go around waving the Bible at everybody's face, right? And not everybody is a Christian, not everybody has got the same beliefs and so forth. So depending on who you wave the Bible, in whose face you wave it to, some people may actually not appreciate. So Gbenga has never been that kind of a person. And that's why I was saying, yes, I've always known that, he has got ideals and he's got principles that he tries to live to and so forth. But he doesn't go around saying, here's my Bible to everybody. It's almost like he lets his conduct, he lets his behavior, lead the way. You just see that, okay, this is a man of integrity just from his own actions. I mean, his work ethics basically follow his character, right? Integrity, sticking to a set of principles and so forth. So I would say that when I started working with Mr. Gbenga in 2008, I was almost immediately put on the same kind of portfolios with him, and we're doing what he will remember this. We're doing what we call valuation curves, and he was the person who used to keep those valuation curves, and I essentially learned from him in terms of what needs to be done and so forth. So in terms of how he does his work and so forth, working with him over a period of 8 years, his work ethic has always followed what his character is. There's never been a discrepancy whereby in real life or in, let me say, in outside of work kind of life, he does one thing, and then in a professional environment, I see him following another set of principles. It has always been the same, and that goes back to the consistency that I was telling you about. He has got remarkable consistency in what he does in every sphere of his life.
My name is Sheila Conquest, and Gbenga was an employee of ours when I was a director of Venman Rand. In my capacity as director, I was responsible for admin, finance, and personnel. And when I first met him, I was very interested as we were becoming a diverse company, and he was the first Nigerian we had employed. He was very polite and soft-spoken and easy to speak to and deal with. In the work environment, Gbenga was always very professional and ethical.
His work was always of a high standard and always done with a good grace. He got on very well with his colleagues. A number of them looked up to him for guidance and assistance. He always socialized well with his colleagues in the work environment. I always teased him and said that with his stature, he was my Nigerian enforcer, and he would chuckle as he was nothing like that as a person. I enjoyed his kindness and respect, and that he was always a stable influence in any situation. I always thought of him and his family as being part of my family. He had this warmth and kindness and caring about him, which made a very deep impression on me. And the fact he always called me Ma Sheila was so sweet because I felt like with some of the other staff, we had a number of Zimbabwean staff as well who were far from home. So I felt as though I was their mother, in loco parentis, as it were. I miss him coming in and smiling and chatting to me and telling me about the family and the greater family as well, about how his parents were doing and his brothers. It was always a very relaxed, caring environment that we had at Venman.
Many have described his personality, characteristics, and qualities.
God-fearing.
I would say he's a man that loves Jesus and loves people.
Loving.
A lover of God.
Lover of God.
Loving.
Leader.
Prayerful.
Integrity.
Passionate.
He's extremely balanced. I can't overstretch that. Man of integrity, extremely balanced.
Consistent.
Simplicity and humility combined.
And he's very calm.
I'll say it's deep.
Principled.
I was going to say full of wisdom.
Consistent.
He has God's wisdom.
And he's a man that walks the talk.
A man of morals.
He believes in people.
I will still expand that is someone that when he sees a destiny not living to that purpose that God has created it for, that someone not living for the purpose that they've been created for, that there is a cry in his heart to find himself helping that individual to say, you know what, there is better for you. This is what God wants to achieve with your life.
I think beyond just the local church, I think he also has a strong calling now into mentoring the future marketplace millionaires.
He's a man that God has been preparing and is still preparing for something that none of us is yet to come in contact with, and he's taking him through this journey because there's something that is about to unfold, and I can tell you by God's grace we are very closer to that unveiling from God about Pastor G. When that unveiling from heaven, which he would manifest through his life, and which he has been manifesting through his life, comes, it would not be a surprise to anybody, because we would all be able to say that, now I see why God has prepared him to this point.
He is an awesome pastor. He is a caring and superb mentor.
My name is Tosin Oshamenyo. Pastor Gbenga is more like a big brother to me that I'm able to tell him as it is 2006. There used to be this prayer for Nigeria whereby the pastors would come together, and it was being organized by my father, who also happened to be a pastor. And we met. A couple of pastors were there. They come regularly from Jube to Benoni. And, well, he was one of the youngest there. And I just felt we connected somehow. I can't say the Holy Spirit told me and what was, no. I just felt the connection. And afterwards, I visited the family, Pastor Titi, I call her Titi Tai, things like that. So he had an open hand, he welcomed me as a small brother. So I think that was the connecting point. I reached out from my side, and then on his side, he also welcomed me. So yeah, he's a realistic person as much as he's a man of faith, and that's one is a thumbs up for me. What is it that is happening is not, it tells you what it is that he can see. And then, of course, he will pray about it. But I see him as someone that is realistic and does not, it's not economical with the truth. He will say it. If you take it, it's up to you. If you don't take it, it's up to you. But he has opened his own side. Talked about what he feels was right at that point in time.
Pastor G is a very straightforward person, and he loves to speak the truth. He doesn't. He can be very trusting because he speaks the truth. So he can be very trusting because he expects others to always deal in truth as well. But I know that that's not often the case for a lot of people. But his general frame of mind towards being spiritual is that of truthfulness towards God, truthfulness towards humanity, truthfulness to the word, to the core. What he sees in the word is what he chooses to believe and he sticks by. And that has made him to be unflinching in his faith, and he's made him to be very consistent because he upholds that word in very, very high esteem, and he tries to live by that.
One thing was clear: he has the call of God over his life. Absolutely clear. You cannot mistake it. The call was clear. And I must say this, he actually introduced me to the materials of kinetic. Pastor Gbenga has resources. He has resources. So also, I think his background also influenced that, deeper life and all of that. So they used to reading and all of that. What I've seen, he's been the same man, funny enough. Number one, simplicity. He has always been very simple. He has no air of arrogance around him, and I must say that. He's still approachable, and I will tell you this, he's somebody, I don't talk to him as a pastor, I talk to him as a big brother. So it's so fun. So when I need to talk to him as a big brother, there's that switch. When we need to talk as a pastor, there's that switch. So the balance for me comes, he cuts that balance for me each time we talk.
I am Reverend Shegun Kwewuniso, married to my lovely wife, Reverend Victoria Ekwemoniso. Pastor Gbenga is our favorite big brother, an amazing blessing to us in ways we can't quantify. We're privileged to know him. He's our claim to fame. He's an amazing man. I can go on and on, but yes, that's our relationship with him. I'd had the opportunity to meet with him. He had actually taken me out for lunch or something, but it was very different from those kind of meetings that you have with pastors. I'm very careful interacting with pastors, because sometimes you have to deal with, barriers, airs, and all of those things. But he was really, really simple, down to earth, straightforward. I'm not one to want to impress anybody, but meeting him, you would not feel any pressure to need to impress him. He was just straightforward. And I would say I felt like I was dealing with a real human being behind the title. And that was really so disarming and so refreshing. I can't forget it. He really wanted to know me. He really wanted to relate with me. And that was the beginning of many awesome things.
The conversations we've had have grown even more intimate over the years. We've had, this is someone that, and it's funny, I feel like I'm going to go here and there between his personality and, impressions and all the things you asked. The first thing that I see about Pastor G, and it's not like it's changed, I've just grown in my realization of it, is how humble he is. Pastor G is one of the most anointed ministers. But you won't find him blowing his trumpet. He will manifest it. In manifesting it, you will know this person is seriously anointed. Because the things he's saying, you couldn't have known. I can't give you specific instances, but there's so many. Even down to describing, so he would call sometimes and say, oh, how's this, how's that? Something just came to my mind. I just thought I should hint you. This might be something, you may want to consider. But and then he will always end it with, man of God, this is an international audience. So he will end it with, you are the men of God, you're the women of God, you are the ones in the spirit. We are just talking based on maybe a few experiences. And literally, that's what he will say. I'm just speaking based on maybe some experiences I've had over the years. Pastor G will then, in saying that, give you a word of knowledge. Because many times he will say things like that, and then it will happen exactly as he said. I can't, not once, not twice, several times.
So I'll start with where she was saying that he's seriously anointed. And I'll add, he's seriously anointed even when he's not sounding like he's serious. He has this way of joking and just chipping in. But, there's such accuracy of, the prophetic, such purity of the spirit. Every time we have conversations, you will feel a sense of someone who really cares for you, cares about you. And, there are special relationships in my life that I don't necessarily put out there much on social media, but I hold very close to my chest. My relationship with Pastor G is one of such. I'm literally smiling now because he's the one person who threatens me with the apostle title. He's been threatening me. I'm still not thinking what. What a blessing he is.
He is a diligent protege.
Pastor Albert Odunile. I'm the senior pastor of Glory House Churches International, and Pastor Gbenga Ojo, who many of us call Pastor G, is my beloved son. The book of Revelation says he has made us kings and priests unto the Most High God. It's interesting, and I say this around the world, that the Bible refers to us as kings before priests, which tells us that we have a role to play in society, in the community, amongst mankind. And also we have a role to play in the body of Christ. I perceive Pastor G's role as a dual role. I see him, this is just my way of describing it, as an apostle in the marketplace, a pacesetter, a trailblazer, a man who distinguishes himself in the midst of his peers who are or are not Christians, and is professionally astute as a person. But I also see him as a consummate minister of the new covenant, as a man passionate about the kingdom, expanding the kingdom of God. And it's been like that over the years, consistently. So, blazing a trail, shattering glass ceilings, believing God in the midst of impossible situations. So yes, that's the way I would define it, my understanding of my son in the faith. I would, let me start with biblical descriptions. I would certainly and convincingly say without any doubt that Pastor Gbenga operates in the fivefold ministry, even though he's also a marketplace operative. I would place his priesthood in the fivefold ministry, and without it coming across like a matter of ranking, I would put him in the envelope of the apostolic. However, in the apostolic, there are apostles that operate in certain other fields of the fivefold stronger than others. So I consider my son as a teacher of the word, a passionate teacher of the word, who is a revelator by calling and is passionate about it, and also has a very strong, in my view, pastoral slant or trait or anointing that goes with that. So I believe he's an apostle operating in the priesthood of Melchizedek. I believe he has a strong teaching ministry to the nations, and not just to Pacesetters. And I also believe that he is pastoral. Even his interaction with me, it's very palpable. He cares about people, he loves people, and he wants to see people become the best.
He is a wonderful brother in the faith.
Hey, my name is Ayo Daniels. I'm the lead pastor, Lighthouse, Lagos, Nigeria. Pastor Gbenga Ojo, the lead pastor, Pacesetter Church, Alapere. It's a very good friend of mine, even though he doesn't want me to always say that. Good friend of mine. That's how much pretty I know him. So I met him it was like in a church gathering, an auditorium, and there was just something attractive, if I use that word. There's something that draws you to this person. So after that service, I didn't even know that he knew someone I knew, and so I was standing with that person, and he just walked towards us to say hi to that person, and the person was actually the one who introduced him, and we just engaged in a very brief conversation. I saw quietness. I saw someone who is peaceful, and then subsequently after, if there's just anything, he's a man who is very introspective. So he's just a perfect gentleman. I put it that way. He's been consistent. So what do I mean by this consistency? So you meet someone and you're talking about God's word, and then they are sharing their hearts about the season that they are in, and it kind of agree with what you are also experiencing. So we can talk, go on and talk. So he's been consistent. He's a man who loves God. It's a man who wants to know what God is doing at time, in the Kairos moment that we live in and all that. So it's always a question. Our conversation is just around that. What is God doing? What is happening to you, Pastor? And I asked him the same thing. And we kind of, like we use the word, kind of gel, we align. It's someone who is constantly checking on the heartbeat of God. So when I mean consistency, I mean someone who put his ears in the heart, in the chest of God, to hear what he has as his agenda for a generation. So consistency, it's what really struck me in our friendship. So, Pastor G is a very real person. For me, as a minister of the gospel, I like people who are real. I like people who are vulnerable. I like people who tell you the truth no matter what is happening. I love people who don't have hairs around themselves. And he's a good man. He's very intelligent, I must say that to you. So we have intelligent conversation. I like people who are very intelligent. I like people who are not pushy, but very intelligent, who are not quick to show you how much they know. I like people who have quietness in their spirit man. So for myself and Pastor Gbenga, we can talk on and on. So the dynamic of our relationship is simply, it's not that we talk often, but I don't know how to quote this, but it's like you're reading a book and then you get to, you read through chapter 1, chapter 2, and you just put the book maybe aside. So the next time you're picking it, I'm not going back to chapter 1 and 2. I'm just going to go on to chapter 3. So that's the dynamic of our relationship. We just pick up from wherever we stop. And what people regard as catch up is very easy for us to start that conversation within minutes. And because he loves to ask questions, I also love to ask questions. For me, questions bring the best out of me. So when you ask me questions, I'm able to touch on areas that ordinarily I won't. He's quiet, I'm also quiet, but questions bring out stuff out of me. So that's just the dynamic of our relationship.
Most importantly, Pastor Gbenga Ojo is a committed family man, a wonderful husband, and an excellent father who holds his family dearly. Married to Pastor Titi Ojo and blessed with 2 children, Femi and Finyi.
I would say at the beginning of our relationship, it wasn't that smooth. And there were frictions. And I think our backgrounds and all of that contributed to that anyway. Whereas over the time, I noticed that we've been able to understand one another more, in that we respect each other's view and we respect the expectations that we both have of the relationships. So for example, my expectations are not looked down on, and vice versa. That helps us to have a mutual respect for one another and to be more of friends. Right now, my husband takes pride in his family. He's an extremely good husband. When I need to explain that, when we are all fine, when I'm fine, that's when my husband feels completed. When I feel maybe I have a need and he's able to meet that need, I can see he derives joy from that. So providing and being there, it's one of those things that he does, without blinking an eye. He's a good friend, he's a great husband. He's my gist partner. We talk about almost everything and everything.
Hello, my name is Faithful Ojo. I am 17 years old and I am the daughter of Pastor Gbenga Ojo. He's my dad, very loving man, super friendly, super supportive, and amazing pastor.
Okay, hi, my name is Femi. I'm 18 years old. My father is Pastor Gbenga Ojo. He's a really good dad, and I'd say he's a very avid man who supports alongside me.
Very much a daddy's girl. I'm still a daddy's girl, and I think I'll always be a daddy's girl. So I feel like I was more close to dad than to mom. I'm just always doing home dad. I tell dad everything. Always asking about him as well. No, that's not true. Always asking him for Barbies and so on and so forth. But he was very supportive, especially when it came to school. He just did his best to try and push us to be the better us that we could be. Yeah, he's also a really funny person. Like, even outside of church, I know he says he's always quiet and not that.
He's really not. I said, just if you ever want to like see my real dad, just watch him after many years. Like, that's when you see proper dad. I would say that he's very hardworking. He's also someone that cares a lot. I think one of the greatest things that he taught me, and this wasn't really something he's verbalized to say to me, but rather like perseverance and all that. I've just noticed how he doesn't really show me a lot of things, but there are a lot of things that I've picked up over the years, and that perseverance, that discipline, all that. He really shows it to me. And now that I'm getting older, I'm starting to appreciate more and more. So I'd say he's a really persevering, disciplined man.
He's loving. He's very caring. He does everything in his power to help his family. Whether he's mad at you, whether at that time you're having a good time. Just everything he does is for the family. He always puts the family first before himself. So I think very loving, very caring, very passionate is how we describe Dad.
For me, I would say he's very honest. A lot of the times he'll just tell you things as it is. But like, okay, I can't do this for you now, but maybe next time we can do something, make a plan about it. Or other times he'll be telling me that, okay, Femi, look, I want you to get this grade and do da. So how about we make a deal? I will promise you, maybe when I was younger, you promise me toys or something like that, and then you say if you get 80% for your term mark in school, I'll do that for you. So he was very honest and kept to his word. He's definitely a man of his word.
Today, the legacy of Pastor Gbenga Ojo as a Pacesetter shines brightly. From Federal Government College Idoani to the Federal University of Technology Akure, and from founding Alapere for Christ to establishing the Pacesetters Church. His life is a testament to the transformative power of faith, education, and the unwavering commitment to lead by example. As we reflect on the life and ministry of Pastor Gbenga Ojo, we are reminded that true Pacesetters not only lead, but also inspire others to follow in their footsteps, setting the pace for a world filled with faith, love, and hope. Pacesetter Faith, the inspiring journey of Pastor Gbenga Ojo, a documentary that delves into the life of a man who embodied an excellent spirit to set the pace as a Christian, inspiring generations to walk in faith as leaders in every sphere of life, while making a positive impact in the world.
Oh my God. The guys don't know. I'll tell you what Pastor G will say when he's watching the video. He'll say, "Oh boy, you're serious."
He used to make amala very well, but I don't know if it was his favorite food.
I used to make the best amala. If you get him to be the one to do the amala, he does it fantastically well.
I don't know the Pastor G that makes amala. Pastor, we don't know him to cook. Only once in a while when we had that challenge in church, among the couples, we had that, was it 3-4 years ago, that for Mother's Day, husbands must cook for their wives. He indeed cooked, he bride, he made dodo, we took the picture of it, we sent it on the couples platform. My husband was so proud of that food.